welcome back. Going live here again, talking about some of the updates with the 2022 Barkley Marathons. Thank you for joining me again. This is the third update. I am a little bit later than I would hoped. I had some things to attend to, but we are back and we're going to be sharing some updates from you from Loop 1. As you can see in the upper corner, right there, we are 11 hours, 14 minutes into race time. It started this morning at 7:54 a.m. And I'm going to be providing just, a little bit of commentary on what has transpired since the last update, which was near the fire tower. If you guys are here and can hear me, please let me know in the chat. Would love to hear from you once again. Just going to make sure that we are indeed live, and it looks like we're good to go. So welcome back. So a lot has happened. Let's pull up the screen, get right into it. There we go. So last we checked, we had just looked at the top leaders coming through the fire tower. Oh, can you guys hear me okay? I might need to just turn up my volume slightly. Perfect. Awesome. All right, so let's get right back into it. So we left off at the fire tower around 6 hours and 45 minutes into the race. And the leaders were about an hour 20 faster than last year. We had a nice pack up front. And then there were some others. So next up was Greg Hamilton, Harvey Lewis, Aaron Bradner, Jasmine Paris, and Guillaume Calmette were up at the tower. And moving ahead, we had our first runners coming in. Carl Saab, John Kelly, Albert Casas, and Michael Dubois finished Loop 1 in 8:07:50. That is fast. That is quite fast. So we'll have to see. Maybe some of the course changes were a positive reflection. Maybe there was some rumors that there was going to be a little bit less climbing in this year's course than the past couple years, so maybe that did happen. Let's go ahead and look at who came in next. It looks like John Kelly was back out in 10 minutes, so he headed out first, 8:17, followed by Carl Saab, maybe together. We had Albert Casas heading out next, and then Courtney Dauwalter finished just after those guys left in 8:18:10. I'm not sure yet if they headed out and repeated the same clockwise direction or if they reversed and headed back towards the field, and there would be some overlap. But greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining in the chat. As Kyle Chadwick says, the leaders will get a good jump on Loop 2 before the cold, wet night. So, I think that is the case. So it's already night over in Tennessee where these folks are running at. And let's see here. Michael Dubova began Loop 2 at 8:23. Oh, there was a bit of a scare for Courtney. So she finished in 8:18, which is, what a great start to her second attempt at Barkley, improving by over 2 hours from last year's race. Of course, different conditions, a possible different course, but she had to have her pages recounted. I guess one of them dropped to the ground next to the gate. And I think there's maybe a picture of that I can pull up and show you here. Posted to her Instagram, so you could see a little bit of a scare there with getting her pages counted after Loop 1. And I think Courtney had some good stories from her crew as well. As you can see here, those were from earlier. That was last night. Oh yeah, here we go. So this is a photo from Howie Stern from the fire tower. It looks like a bit warm out there, trying to keep cool. Here is her legs after, looks like that first loop. It's definitely some cuts from the briars out there, and So far, so good for Courtney. It looks like she was a few minutes behind those folks. So here is her race plan. It looks like the crew mantra is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. They've got a whole checklist of items that they want to make sure and get done each time before she heads back out there. And you know what I wanted to pull up was this Barkley results sheet. See if they've been updating this. There we go. So here are your Loop 1 splits so far. It looks like we have 19 folks in, including 4 women thus far in 10:14. So how does that compare to last year? Well, no one had yet come in until 10:21. So that is pretty interesting to take a look at. Those top guys are going to have 2 hours on Luke Nelson and Jared Campbell last year, meaning we should see definitely, well, I shouldn't say definitely because we will have to talk about the weather that is incoming. But yeah, so far you've got 18, almost half the field is in, and we still have some time. So this is probably updating not in real time. It's probably delayed. So there's probably quite a few more folks in since it's been a whole nother hour at this point. Let's see. 2017 was the last time we had finisher, and that was a split time of 9:29 for the first loop. So there is some definite buffers right now. Of course, the first lap time doesn't tell the whole story of a race, but I mean, we've got 12 people under 9:30 this year so far. So I would say folks are doing pretty good so far. We've got Hi from Bustleton, Western Australia. Super fast loop 1 for leaders. And cheering on Isabel Ross for her long-awaited second attempt. And we got a hello from Wisconsin. Thank you for keeping us updated. You bet. I know it's a little delayed, but now we have kind of a total picture of that loop 1. Jump back over to Twitter here. See if we have any more information. So Thomas Dunderbeck remarked that the course is flatter than he thought. We've got, of course, Harvey Lewis coming in, and he came in just before Courtney headed out on her second lap. And Greg and Harvey began loop 2 together, it looks like, in 8:48. We do have a shout out to Frozen Ed. Furtaw is the first to face the Bugler this year, 8:45.32. I'm assuming he came in from Quitter's Road somewhere, but he did write the book Tales from Out There, and this is his first Barkley since being treated for cancer, and he is overcome with true joy, it says. Jasmine Paris, for those folks of you following her, she finished the first loop in 9:23. This is interesting. So she finished loop 1 in 9:23 and was right back out in 9:24. So basically a turnaround right at the gate. That's like barely enough time to get your pages counted, grab your new bib, head right back out. So I would be interested to see more information on that and if she even got any food to eat. But there are definitely some fans in Twitter about Jasmine. Guillaume comes in and says, "It is not as much fun as I remember." Oh man, that is brutal. I'm sure training in France, I think he lives in like a flatter area of France, might be a little more challenging for him. Let's see what else we got. We got a bunch of other guys coming in here and heading back out. And Tomo from Japan says, "Laz, I licked the skillet." So one of the years, there's a skillet that the book is under. And Keith to Laz says, "Why would someone lick the skillet?" And Laz says, "Why would someone come here?" Okay. That is interesting. Question for the chat here is Jeff Garmeyer or String Bean competing? Not that I know of. I don't believe String Bean got in this year. We got Paul Giblin back out there, heading back out on loop 2. And shout out to Jody Eisner, also finishing loop 1 in around 10:14 and back out at 10:51. So I would like to know and look up if the rain has begun. We looked at this earlier. And let's see if we can get this to refresh real quick. Oh dear. Okay. So we're going to zoom in here. You can see Wartburg is going to be at the middle right side, far side of the screen. You can see that light green section just to the right of Wartburg, in between there and Petros. Petros is basically where the prison is. And I'm going to hit play on this. And it looks like now, right now is right there. So the rain is just upon the park. It is about to hit. And it will, in the next 5 minutes, basically, it's going to cover the entire park. It looks like it's going to get heavier in the next couple hours. And we'll zoom out here and see how big of a storm this is. So try and keep Oak Ridge. Oh, yeah. There is a lot of rain coming in. So, although we had an amazing start, we're going to have to see how these folks handle this through the night, as that is kind of when the real games begin for the Barkley. It is one thing to follow this course in the daylight when it is clear, and it's a totally different ball game once the rain comes in, and a lot of times with that is the fog, which can become very challenging. Literally, you can barely see from your eyes to just right in front of you. So it can be disorienting, and of course you are navigating this off-trail route, this off-trail course. And yeah, I think tonight is obviously the crux. You cannot afford to lose too many hours. You could lose a couple probably. You can slow down. I mean, these folks have built up quite a buffer, so they do have some room to work with. What I would do is just try and stay focused and not lose my bearings, and try and work together with some other folks. But yeah, good point here in the chat. At least they won't be hallucinating yet. It is still relatively early, so they should have their mental wits about them. And it's not like this was a surprise. I think everyone saw in the forecast that this is coming, that it was going to rain for the entire night. So I think that can be sometimes more problematic, is if you don't know that it's coming and it catches you off guard where you're not prepared with the right kind of gear. So most everyone coming in arrived just before dark, so they are getting ready for the night, probably going to be bundling up anyways and kind of loading up on their gear and ready to go. So we got some other questions here in the chat. Porch Turd saying that weather is going to be a factor. And yeah, here's a great question from Pedal Strike, just arriving. Does anyone know if loop 2 is the same direction as loop 1? I don't know. Hopefully we can pull up maybe some videos from camp. So that would be my next thing, to see if we can find something here. Got Laz's cigarette. I don't see anything straight away. I also know that Harvey Lewis, there was some good stuff on his page. So here's Harvey coming in after his first loop. He's drinking his Pedialyte, looks like, and stretching out while he gets his pages counted. And let's see if there's any stories from Harvey. Doesn't look like it. And let's see who else we have here. Alex has had some good updates. Alex was up at the fire tower earlier.
Christoph ist oben. Ja.
Bis später.
Okay, I'm not sure where that is at.
Christoph ist oben. Ja.
Bis später.
I'm trying to get rid of this. There we go. Let's see here. Here's a picture of Thomas going out for his second loop. I'm trying to see if I can figure out which direction they're going in here. He's got his pack. That doesn't really show us which direction he's going. So yeah, it's an unknown at this point in time. I will try and find the answer to that question and see if we can find out. Amelia Boone here with a little weather update. And yes, it is incoming. There is the typical Barkley rain and Barkley weather. All right, we had some questions about weather, so we'll kind of leave this up on the screen here. What shelter options will runners employ or improvise out in the course in thunderstorm conditions? So great question. Of course, you could stay lower down and avoid the high ridges, but for me, I have used sometimes rock outcroppings. There's quite a few chalk stones on these ridges. You can sometimes find one to crawl under. I've waited out some storms a couple different times when it's been just super heavy under some of these large stone rocks. Let's see. What gear do you carry for the extremes in weather on this course? So I mean, a lot of layers, waterproof jackets, waterproof gloves, waterproof pants, tights, warm hats, like pretty much all the different things that you would want to layer up for going out. There's no place to dry off out there, really. You can't get a change of clothes on the loop. You got to have everything that you need for anywhere from 8 to 16 hours at a time. And let's see. What would be the most complicated area in the race with heavy rain? Oh man, I would say a couple of the river crossings. So in really heavy rains, the prison tunnel can be a bit treacherous. It can be pretty deep and fast flowing. And it just also makes it to be really cold. So it's like rushing up, it's kind of splashing up all over your legs, soaking you. There's also the New River, which has flooded in the past. So Blake Wood, we were talking about this earlier, 1 year, had to turn back. So he was like just half a lap from a finish. He hit that New River, and it was such a raging torrent that he had to turn back and withdraw from the race. So yeah. Let's see here. Are you allowed to drop gear on the loop? No. You have to carry everything with you all the way around each time. If you dropped something or left it, it would be considered littering on the course. So no, not allowed to drop gear on the loop. What do you guys think? How do you think the weather is going to affect all these folks? Would love to hear your thoughts. It sounds like it's going to rain most of the night, off and on. It's going to be a really interesting factor for sure. We're getting some random tweets from John Kelly on Twitter, Random Forest Runner, and this is really funny. Just saying that this course is easy. So I don't know who has taken over his Twitter, but it might be Maggie, but it's pretty funny. Let's see what else. And yeah, we got another question here from Andy Pearson. Which direction are our friends enjoying the park on loop 2? I thought I saw clockwise, but I can't be sure. Is someone? So if anyone out there in the chat is letting us know what is happening in terms of the directions. So we got some banter here. How is the weather going to affect these folks tonight? So Wayne Walsh says, if it's supposed to be nice tomorrow, which I think it's relatively supposed to be nice, I'd be telling myself just get through the night and see what happens next. Loop 1 easy, so loop 2 is paying them back. That's kind of how it goes out here. What is worse, rain or the night? I would say the combination of that and fog could be pretty detrimental. What is Barley yet? I thought it was in the fall. Oh, the Barkley Fall Classic is then, but the big Barkley is in the spring. Keith Dunn said that loop 1 was clockwise. Yes, we do know that, but we're trying to figure out loop 2. We haven't yet seen that. I still have yet to see a picture of someone leaving on loop 2, so I can't confirm exactly what's going on here. Let's see if we have anything else from Keith here. Go all the way up. So the latest here, latest update. We are 11 hours, 30 minutes into the Barkley Marathons. We're watching a bunch of lights over on Rough Ridge. Those runners have little hope. So I guess they can see across towards like the south. And, you know, at this point they have 30 minutes to meet the 12-hour cutoff, which essentially would mean at this point you have very little hope of a 5-loop finish. And the best that you could hope for would be a fun run. These are funny. And what else do we got here? Yeah, so we got Jody heading out on loop 2. Does wind factor at all on the course? I mean, definitely. I mean, the wind chill factor up on some of those ridges can be brutal. It can also blow the fog around. The fog will roll in and out kind of with the wind. But yeah, it can be pretty icy and pretty intense in terms of that, the rain and the wind. What's the typical camp vibe in the late wee hours? That's interesting. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time in camp, or pretty much no time in camp this early into the race, so I can only speculate. But a lot of times people sitting around the campfire, I mean, there's a lot of action right now. The crews, pretty much all the crews are going to be busy attending to their runners, since most of the runners are still in the race right now. But it'll start to evolve over time as more people drop out and kind of join the crew in camp. So yeah, just a reminder for our cutoff times. 12 hours is the cutoff for each loop for 5 hours. And so, I mean, already at this point, John Kelly has been out on loop 2 and Carl Saab for, man, 3 hours, over 3 hours already. So they're probably moving along quite well. Question here, how much of an advantage does someone with orienteering experience have versus a traditional ultra athlete? I would say they definitely have an advantage, but I would say you don't have to have participated in orienteering events specifically, although it is a great skill set to have. But I do think being comfortable with a mapping compass is pretty important for sure. Thunderstorms all afternoon in Georgia. Hypothermia is real. Yeah. Yeah, for me, that would be definitely a big concern. I've been out in all sorts of weather, and if you miscalculate your layers and your waterproofing needs, you could be in some real trouble out there. Um, yeah, could be in a real bad spot real quick. Favorite interlocal food? Man, there's a lot. Hot soups are kind of awesome when you come in and you've been cold. Um, Shouting out mashed potato burritos here. Definitely love doing that. And we did have an update here. Maggie is confirmed that she's doing the socials for John Kelly right now. So if you see John Kelly tweeting right now, it's definitely not him with a phone on course. It's his crew back at camp. We do have some reports of the weather in Georgia tonight saying that it is horrendous. I can't imagine how bad it is up there, borderline dangerous. Yeah, the Barkley is not for the faint of heart, and it is a race that does not hold your hand. You really have to be self-sufficient, self-supported out there. But I guess the interesting thing about the Barkley is with all of the trails and forest roads that are in Frozen Head State Park, and because the course is generally a loop, you are never more than typically a few miles from some sort of a trail that leads directly back to camp. It kind of all sits in a big basin or a big bowl, and these different branches of the mountains all funnel back into camp. So there are a couple more remote sections on a typical Barkley course where you're pretty committed, but they're further out on the far side. Like they would be like halfway around the loop compared to where camp is. So before or after you commit to that, where you might be out of commission for a few hours, from most places on the course, probably within 2 hours, you could be back to camp, and you could certainly be heading downhill into better weather, warmer weather. And that, I think, plays a big factor in why like self-extraction has been kind of so successful here, people getting themselves out on their own. Uh-oh. Disney Bill asking, have I ever napped while out on the course? Hilariously, yes, multiple times. I actually fell asleep the year in 2015 when I was out there the longest. I was on loop 4, got disoriented. It was raining on me. I was so tired. I figured a little bit of a nap would help clear my head, and fell asleep. Put my space blanket around me, which is something I always carry at the Barkley. I always carry an emergency blanket. You never know. You could break your leg and you got to hole up for the night. People may not be able to find you for quite some time. So I got warm and I've passed out, and I didn't wake up till the morning, which was like 4 or 5 hours later. So pretty embarrassing. And that prevented me from continuing on that year. Let's see. It's 50 degrees there now. Not too bad, but the heavy rain isn't too far out. Let's see if there's any more. Okay, we got Remy Jagard finishing loop 1 in 11:39:08. How much tougher is one loop on the Barkley course compared to a regular trail race? So a lot of us have made the comparison with like a really tough 50-mile race and one loop of the Barkley. So like a Zangray 50-mile, Tahoe Rim Trail 50-mile, or a couple good ones, like something that would take the winner maybe 9 hours, a similar time to Barkley for the winner is like a Barkley loop. So something with a fair amount of climbing, technical terrain, something that'll beat you up and take anywhere from 9 to 13 hours for a given runner, I would say is pretty comparable. And then, so take that really tough 50-miler that you've done, and then as soon as you finish it, turn around, go back, run it again. But this time it's raining on you for 10 hours straight. And it's dark. and then do it again. And then do it again, but this time there's fog and the hillsides are slick with mud, and you're now sleep deprived because you've been out there for 48 hours straight, and et cetera, et cetera. So you can imagine how that compounds over time. And also imagine that the course was not marked to begin with. It all adds up. And let's see here. Gary Roberts says, I looked back at John Kelly's announcement, and it looks like he might have scheduled that tweet to go out before he started. That's funny. That would be hilarious to see if maybe he's pre-scheduled a bunch of tweets. But there was a tweet reply. So that definitely wasn't pre-scheduled, but some of them might be pre-scheduled. Altitude gain and loss on one loop. So I think in recent years, it's been 13,000 or a little bit more feet of climbing. I'm not sure what this course has. We'll have to see. Here we go. Shireen says, with wind and rain and fog, it will slow their loop 2 down considerably, I would think. Relieved to hear that there's a group of runners that have arrived into camp. Oh, yeah. They've arrived and are definitely back out there already. Go Jody Eisenor. Got some fans here in the chat. Let's see here. Oh, what are people doing in camp right now? Laz is counting pages. Keith's Twitter is updating. That's pretty much what's happening right now. John Kelly was here in Ireland doing some of our epic trails. Trust me, great, great training for Barkley. I can't imagine. There's probably got some nice weather out there as well. Right. Let's take a look and see if there's any more updates on Twitter right now. Oh, interesting. Huh. So it looks like Alyssa Godeski, professional triathlete, is out there, completed loop 1, and I think is on loop 2 now. Yep, she's on loop 2. And here is looks like a tracker. This was made by John Sug. So let's pull that up. Thank you for making this. So it looks like he's got this cool little bar chart here. He's got the cutoff times. We've got the red is the DNFs. He's kind of pieced this together, he says, from tweets from Keith Dunn and a roster from Taka Does Stuff. And the parentheses here is letting you know how many attempts each person has made at the Barkley before. Go to a full screen here. And it's also counting down as well. At least this screenshot is. What else do we got here? Star is calling the human sacrifice. That's just me, guys. Let's see. Who else did we miss that we didn't talk about earlier? Wow. Oh, Remy. Did Remy just come in? I think Remy was one of the ones that just came in, one of the most advanced on the course here. So Carl Saab and John Kelly there were the first two to come in. Albert Cass and Michael Dubova are virgin runners, first-timers here. Greg and Courtney it's their second time, and then we got a bunch of virgins all in a row. Harvey, Thomas, Jasmine, Thomas, Aaron, Paul Giblin's been here before. Looks like a pack of veterans there in the middle, and just kind of a mix. There's a whole bunch of virgins at the back there. That is going to be brutal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's going to be an experience for them. That's for sure. So it looks like there's maybe about 9 virgins that have yet to come in that are still out there, probably going to be fighting to make that official one loop cutoff time of 13 hours, 20 minutes. Chris Warden is still convinced that Jeff Garmeyer is out on course there. I would hope that he's not participating because that would mean he's not really in the mix at this point. But you never know. His Twitter has been quiet, so there could be something going on. And here's a question. Will David Hughes get in from Loop 1 and head out on 2? He was, of course, the runner that started 40 minutes late. He was apparently just sitting in a chair 40 minutes after the race and figured, you know what? I might as well go give this a shot. Shout out to Tomo here. Gambare says, Gambare to Tomo Ahara. He's been doing a ton of training in the mountains near Tokyo and eager to do better than his previous attempts. I can attest that Tomo is an extremely strong runner. Him and myself and Johan all finished a fun run in 2019, and we had the pleasure of going up the meat grinder together in the dark, and that is quite the experience, I will tell you. That's for sure. Split. Here's a question, Anna Stormer. Is split time when they come in or when they head out on the next loop? Split times, as reported by Keith Dunn, he sometimes reports both in and out times. Oh, we got a lot of people retweeting Amelia's screen capture here. There is going to be a lot of talk about the weather, of course. We got another finisher for Loop 1, John Clark. But yeah, so when it says John Clark, Loop 1 in 11:44, that is their in time. So when they tap the gate, that is your official time of the completion. You have to tap that gate. And when you head out, when you physically receive the bib from Laz, your new bib, which tells you which page to tear out, that is when your time for the next loop and your out time is recorded. So they always record in and out times. They obviously need to know every runner that's out on course, so they keep track of everyone and make sure that everyone is safe. How muddy will the course get with the rain? I could tell you, I mean, in general, we're talking about the East Coast, an area that gets a lot of rain. It can handle a lot of rain for sure, but there are some sections, especially steep off trail, that get extremely muddy, slick, and slippery. And it expends a lot of extra energy. That is one of the biggest things with the rain and the mud is you're just putting out a lot more effort than you would otherwise need to if there wasn't that mud and it was drier conditions. Is this Courtney's second attempt? Yes, she attempted it last year and made it 2 loops. The second one was over Cutoff to continue. Pretty sure I would be shocked. I shouldn't even probably say this, but I'd be shocked if we don't see quite a few fun runs at this point in time. But of course, it depends like what exactly happens with the storm that is coming in. And let's go back to that weather app. So we got our hourly real quick. And here we are. It's almost 9 p.m. there right now. And they're still projecting about an 80% chance of rain, about 0.1 per hour, all the way till 6 a.m., basically sunrise. It's going to stay a consistent temperature, it appears. So they're calling for it to be around 44 degrees for the entire night. That, of course, will be near the freezing point up at the top of the peaks, I would imagine. And let's go back to that radar now. We'll zoom in a little bit. Wartburg is right in the center there. And it's definitely raining on course right now. It looks like some heavy stuff potentially coming in. Just let that play a little bit. How many people have finished the first loop? I think it's upwards of 25 as of right now. Question here, how do you get into the race? I'd love to run this. So there's a couple different ways. The application process is not public, so in order to find that out, you'll need to, the best thing to do is kind of speak to people that have been out there before. A guaranteed way to get in, I believe that the winners of the Barkley Fall Classic, which is a 50K race held in the same park in the fall, the winners of that, here is like a zoom in on the park itself right there, Wartburg and Petros. It's that green area right above. And you can win that, or the winner of the Big's Backyard each year is also guaranteed a spot. So if you want a taste of the Barkley and what this is all about, I highly recommend the Barkley Fall Classic. I haven't run it myself, but you'll get out on a lot of the same trails as the race. And even if you don't, I would highly recommend checking out Frozen Head State Park. It is one of my favorite places. I've been there many times outside of the race weekend, and it's just a magical, amazing place. Very cool place. The most misunderstood thing about the Barkley. I'm not sure I know quite how to answer that right now. We got quite a few people from the surrounding states tuned in right now. So someone from South Carolina says that they are getting rain over there. It looks like at this point, a good part of, if we zoom out, good part of like that Midwest, southeastern part of the country. I don't know exactly what to call it. All of Tennessee is basically raining right now, or will be shortly. Question here, how challenging is navigation and bookfinding after the first loop? Great question. I would say that it depends on a lot of factors. So the fact that loop 2 is in the dark is going to make it more challenging, and especially if the fog rolls in, that can be especially difficult. Even with a good light, you lose your visual markers and you can become surrounded in fog, and you can no longer discern ridges and different trees and even creeks, like which way that the slope is heading, especially if you're off trail, can be quite challenging. And I would say the direction is a big deal. So we haven't confirmed which way they're headed on loop 2 right now. If you head in the same direction as loop 1, it's pros and cons. It's kind of nice because you just did that, so you just have to repeat that again. It's like fresh in your mind. If you nail a section, you maybe got it, and you can just kind of follow it again. Nice thing about going in reverse is you might run into people that are still coming up from the previous climb or making the previous descent. You can see lights in the distance. Now, you have to trust that that light is on course, which is questionable. You never know. But I think that could be an advantage. But the hard part is if you get and navigate to a book in one direction, you have a certain set of visual markers that you use to get there. And like maybe you're doing one of the climbs. Are you looking backwards behind you to see what will it look like if I'm coming down this? The way some of these ridges branch off, start at the top, and then they're like fingers that go down and they branch out. And if you get on the wrong finger, if you're just like up here a little bit off, as they splinter and go down and keep splintering, you make one kind of wrong decision up top, and you could be a half mile by the time you get to the bottom of that descent from where you intended to be, which always can cause confusion, can cause lost time. Maybe you end up in a really bad briar patch. There's like all kinds of factors that I've experienced out there when you just make like one little kind of error, and one little mistake can easily at this race compound into major mistakes, especially when there's weather involved. And, all this time you're trying to navigate and still take care of yourself, like eating and drinking. There's no pacers out there at this event. you have to manage all that yourself and keep your mindset strong. Are the books usually hidden, or are they out in the open? They're typically hidden. They have to put these out in advance, so they need to keep them safe from potentially anyone that might stumble upon them. Or there's wildlife out there. I mean, there's wild pigs, there's deer, there's raccoons, there's all kinds of stuff out there. So they're typically sealed and tucked away in hidden places out there. All right, we got some updates. This is awesome just having you guys here in the chat. So cool. Brian Oakes from Nashville, Tennessee says it just started raining here in Nashville. Cold rain. Oh, man. So Nashville, if you guys don't know the geography, oh my gosh, now I am having trouble finding Nashville. I know it's just to the west. Oh, there's Nashville. Duh. It's not that far away. So yeah, Nashville on the left, and you scroll directly to the east is Wartburg, which is a little to the northwest of Knoxville. So sounds like some cold rain incoming. And man, what a typical Barkley experience this is going to be for these folks. So if they can make it through tonight, I think it's going to be clearing out. So Wednesday is supposed to be 25% chance of precipitation in the morning and just a 4% chance tomorrow night, but a low of 36. So up high, it'll probably be in the 20s at the top of the peaks tomorrow night. I bet things will freeze over. There'll be frost on everything. And then Thursday is looking like a beautiful day. So often that's the case here. If you could only get through the worst of it, there are better times ahead. As Andrew Thompson put it in one of his Barkley reports, life exists on a curve. If it's bad, it won't keep getting worse. At some point, it will bottom out and it will start to get better. Same. If you're feeling high, if everything's going well, it can't keep infinitely getting better. At some point, it will inevitably level off and come back to some sort of a homeostasis. Just keep that in mind. It's kind of a good thing to keep in mind at any ultra or sort of activity, not just Barkley Marathons. It is not raining in Brentwood, Tennessee yet. Not sure exactly where that's at, but stay tuned. All right, well, we just hit 12 hours, so 12:02. See if we have any updates from Keith, if he officially calls it here. And Keith Dunn, he's the only guy that we searched for here. Chris Roberts finished Loop 1 in 11:57:30, and Enric Figueri began in 11:59:32. So I think that's our Brazilian runner is out, still under 5 loop cutoff pace. Shout out. That is historic right there. Merjan Gertz also began Loop 2 in 11:49, and Hinky Shocker finished in 11:50. So quite a few more folks are in at this point in time. So we are seeing if there's any more Twitter conversations here. There's, of course, the Barkley Cats. All right. Okay. Is this runner Mark Williams? I think Mark Williams, isn't he the first? I'm not sure. Never mind. And there's a lot of talk of the weather right now. Snake situation on the course. Is it early enough that they aren't too bad? I think it's too early. I don't think it's warm enough yet for the snakes to be coming out of hibernation, but I've heard they are out there definitely certain times of the year. Has anyone ever gone missing while running the Barkley? I have. I was missing on course according to camp because they hadn't heard from me in 20 hours. From the time I left to the time I made it back, it was like a 20-hour time period. I was the only one out on loop 4, 8 hours over cutoff by the time I came back. So definitely sorry, everyone. But there's been a couple other instances where people have had to spend the night out in the woods. Their flashlight runs out. They cannot navigate in the dark, so they just hunker down and wait for morning. Guillaume was out overnight one time, running literally back and forth in a 0.7 mile section of the trail. He went back and forth 6 times. He was almost to the trail. He kept turning around. He ended up finding a stray dog that was in the park, and he slept until the morning. Will runners need to shelter in place for a while, or do they have to just push through to not miss cutoffs? I would say generally runners just push through. It's probably the smarter way to do it. I've sheltered before, mostly because I've been so tired. Like, as far as the weather and the cold, you don't gain a lot by stopping. If anything, you lose body heat and you just get really freaking cold. So as long as you're alert and you can keep moving forward and generating body heat, that's what I would try and do. All right. Thank you all. Really appreciate your comments. A lot of positive comments just for having this little live conversation chit chat. That's pretty much all we're trying to do is, provide a little bit of a source of information, consolidate it. Especially now that it's night, there's going to be even less information available, but we'll try and keep following these. The next big milestone is going to be the 1320 cutoff, and that will be the loop 1 cutoff. So if you're over 1320, you don't get official credit for a loop 1 finish, and you can't head out on a loop 2. And I would imagine somewhere, I don't know, with the weather, I think it's going to really slow them down for this second lap. If they did the first one in a little over 8, I mean, this could easily be a 10 or 11 hour loop, I would say, at the fastest. Being at night, depends how bad the fog gets. They had a pretty good jump start. They probably really moved through that first part of the loop, but if it gets bad, it could really come back around. Oh, it sounds like Ginger Runner Live might be on right now. Are we allowed to tune into that? That would be hilarious. Is that sort of like Inception? Watching a YouTube Live on a YouTube Live. Oh, you know what? Instead of doing that, we are going to go to, I saw this was tweeted out earlier. I want to make sure I recognize who posted this. So Michael O'Farrell, he's M_O'Farrell, shared this detailed weather forecast called Spot WX. So I have not used this before, but this latitude and longitude is for exactly where camp is, essentially. So let's see if we can just take a look at this and decipher what's going on here. So we got the temperature and relative humidity. It looks like this is projected for the future. So temperature, you can see they are projecting, this is all in change units. I'm sorry, folks that are tuning in international, but I got to turn this to our Fahrenheit. There we go. So they're projecting temperature right now is 48 degrees, and it's going to get down to about 41. Relative humidity is very high, of course. As it's raining, it's going to basically hit close to 95 to 100%. And here is our precipitation projections here And this one's still in, I guess, centimeters, millimeters, but yeah, it's tough to say how much it's going to be, and it's probably localized to different areas. Looks like there's going to be a little bit of lightning, not a whole lot to look at, and this is our cloud cover here. Wind, speed, 10 kilometers per hour. I'm not sure if any of you in the forefront of this storm are experiencing much wind, but it looks like it might peak out at 20 kilometers an hour, so shouldn't be a huge issue there. These are I don't know much about this sort of weather charts. As far as why I'm not running the race, I've got just a lot going on here at home that I couldn't make the trip this year. I was planning to make it. Didn't all quite come together for me, so hoping to shift my focus. Sorry, I'll turn this back. Trying to shift my focus to the this race next year. It's kind of fun being on the commentary side, although I'm definitely missing this event for sure. I don't have any other events at this point in time, but definitely right now just focused on seeing how all these folks are going to do tonight and tomorrow. So here is some more stuff. We're still on Twitter here. Runners are still starting loop 2. So even though we're past the 12-hour cutoff, you can start loop 2 all the way up until 13 hours and 20 minutes. That's still on track for a fun run. Alexis Berg posting a pretty cool photo of John Kelly here on course, jumping through and over some briars. Looks like he's absolutely in his element here. But yeah, John is currently leading Barkley with Carl, and that is a good sign for both those guys. They've got someone to work with. Looks like Courtney was a little bit behind them leaving loop 2. So we'll see if she can link up with someone else or if they end up kind of, linking up at some point in time there. Has anyone dropped? Just came back from work trying to catch up. I believe the only confirmed drop so far is Frozen Ed Furtaw. It's like 8 hours and 45 minutes. I'm not sure how many pages he got, but he did drop from the race. So far, I think with the start time, the weather, and the conditions, and from the looks of it, potentially a course, definitely the course I don't think got harder from here. So possibly slightly easier, just speculating. But we've seen fast times. We've seen a lot of people like under, I think there's like 15 people under the time that it took John and Gary the year that John finished. It's like under 9.5 hours, just like 12 or 15 people. It's pretty amazing. Carbon 8, I live a couple hours east of Frozen Head in Tennessee, and it's absolutely pouring here. Could you explain the Barkley tracker? Oh, sure. It looks like John Sugden here has created some sort of a spreadsheet tracker visually representing the finish times. So I believe this trying to decipher it myself. Okay, so there's obviously like, I think this blue bar is like the 12-hour mark, like a 12-hour segment for loop 1. And you can see where along that bar, like Carl and John came in. So, I mean, really only 2/3 of a 12-hour bar, which is pretty amazing. They've got a nice little buffer there. And I'm imagining once we get some people in on loop 2, he'll have a second set there. So it's just something that someone created based upon the tweets being sent out by Keith Dunn to try and formulate some sense of what's going on. Oh, there's a video of John running down Radjaw on his Instagram. Okay, let's go see that. That's a great idea. Oh, Harvey Lewis, we got a story from him. Let's see what that is. Looks like they're just sharing some stuff. Okay, we don't need to do that. And let's go pull up John Kelly. Here we go. Let's take a look at this. Wow. Whew. That is strong. He is just like leaping over those briars. That's awesome. Cool. Thank you so much for pointing that out, Gary. Let's just watch it one more time. Why not? It's 41 seconds. Let's take a look here. Just absolutely bomber down that thing. He is having a blast right now. And then right there, boom. Takes like a big leap, maybe up and over a log or something there. So yeah, go check him out. Random Forest Runner on Instagram. You can go follow John. I'm sure there'll be some more updates soon. If you guys have seen any more cool content anywhere, let me know. I can pull it up. We can all watch it, kind of share it together. And there was another one. The USA 24-hour team often makes posts. It looks like they have someone there. There's Laz this morning blowing the conch. A couple images from earlier as well. And they're talking about the rain. Yeah, of course, 100% all night. And that is where we are right now. The rain is on the course as we are going. Still waiting for some more from Howie. Oh, looks like we might have got word that Enrico has dropped. Our Brazilian runner. Enrico Frigeri dropped out shortly after beginning loop 2 and faces the bugler. I mean, that's the way to do it. Like, if you're going to drop, at least start the next loop. Like, get that next bib, at least head out, even if you're going to drop. I mean, I would recommend at least, like, he's got time to give it a shot. But I guess if you came in 12 hours on your first loop, you're now looking ahead to doing a loop now at night in crazy rain. It's probably started to rain, and you have to do this loop in 14 hours to continue, approximately 14 and a half, and you just did one in 12. It plays a bit of a mental game on you, but I mean, you're out there. I would go for it. But that's just me sitting here. Keyboard warrior at this point. It looks like Remy Jugard has begun loop 2. He is, this is his 5th attempt at the Barkley in 12:15. He is back out there. That's the latest right now. Interesting that Laz allows poles in Barkley, but not the backyard. Yeah. Okay. I think it might have something to do with like the passing on the backyard trail. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I mean, that is a thing. Like he could ban poles at some point, which would be pretty brutal. I've done loops out there without poles, and it is tough. It is definitely tough. Jason Kowalski, what is the distance of the loop? So according to Laz and the race organizers, it's 20.0 miles. For those of us who've been out there before, it is definitely feels longer and is likely longer than 20, but we ultimately do not know how long this loop is. GPS devices are not allowed, so we can really just use our best guess. Oh, interesting. Ultra Running History is here in the chat. Shout out to Davey Crockett. He puts out some amazing content. This year's Barkley is not the earliest ever, so correcting my earlier claim, the first race of 13 unlucky runners, including Laz, was March 1st, 1986. Nice. And there it is. The race is exactly 20 miles. You betcha. All right, trying to see what other sources we have to go off of. There was this Barkley group here. Now I can't find it. There we go. Oh yeah, there was some chatter right around when Remy finished. I missed this tweet, but 7 runners arrived at once. So there was like a big pack, a big crowd. And these runners need a quick turnaround to have any hope of a fun run. And that is definitely true. I mean, if you're sitting at 12 hours for loop 1, somewhere around there, you got to get in, get set for the night, for the cold, for the rain, get back out there, because you have to get back out on your 3rd lap by 26:40. So you got like less than 15 hours to get it done, 14 and a half, and you've got basically just like a 2-hour, 2.5-hour buffer compared to a loop that was done primarily in the daylight, good weather, on fresh legs and fresh mind. So yeah, that's kind of the thing that happens. The rain's going to set in. It's going to get cold. The fog's going to roll in. You're going to get lost. If you get disoriented, you don't know where you're at, where you're going. It could spell trouble. And Quitter's Road might be looking pretty nice at some point there. And yes, as Ultra Running History points out here, Laz likes to point out that the course has always had net elevation change of 0. So keep that in mind if you really think this race is hard. 0 net elevation change. All right. Let's pull up. This was provided to us here, this Google Doc. From @taka_does_stuff on Twitter. So you can see here at the bottom, if you want to go check that out, go find him on Twitter and you can click the link to this document and you can let him know if you have any errors. But let's take a look at our current standings. Thank you for doing this. So as we were talking about earlier, man, look at that. 4 guys all together in 8:07. When's the last time we've had loop 1 at 8:07? Okay, in 2016, Jared and Gary split an 8:01, and Jared went on to finish in 59 hours. So do keep that in mind too. Just because we saw an 8:01 doesn't mean a whole lot yet. We don't know. There's so many factors in this race, and that's kind of why I think it is so interesting to follow along. You can see as I scroll across here, the buffer shrinks and shrinks and shrinks as we go. But I think it'll be really interesting to see, like, your loop 3 leave time is so important, or even your arrival time. If you're not in like 31 or 32 hours, you don't have much of a shot, to be honest. Jared Campbell also an 8:02 with a 57-hour finish time. These guys were low 8s. Okay, back in 2012, that was the year of the first Netflix documentary. 7:41 was their loop 1 split times, and that's when we saw course records. So definitely a way different course back then, but very interesting to note nonetheless. Some other questions in the chat here. We first off, lot of appreciation for Davy Crockett and Ultra Running History here in the chat, appreciating their work. Chris Warden, update for you from Brian. Garmeyer has been posting to Instagram stories, so he's not at Barkley. That was from Brian Pilger. Thank you. Anthony Cardella, has anyone been caught using a GPS device watch phone before? I would not know anything about that. I don't know. It's possible, I guess, but I would assume if they get caught doing that, they would be banned from the race permanently. That is definitely not good. Are runners allowed to use GPS watches now, or does LAS still have limits on tech? Yeah, absolutely. There's limits. I can actually pull this up. Which one was this from? Was it Merton at the Yellow Gate? There was a great picture earlier in the day of someone holding the watch. And now I'm probably not going to be able to find it. Maybe it was our friend Alex Hull. They had a picture of this year's watch. So you get, oh yeah, here it is. Perfect. Look at that. So this is, I believe these are purchased at Walmart. And I think this year I saw different styles. So I think they might have just got whatever they could find. But this is basically under a $10 digital watch. This one actually has I believe is solar, it says on there. But this is a very simple watch. It's provided by the race. It is set to Barkley time, which is kind of funny. So when it strikes midnight, the race starts. And so it really starts to mess with your mind. When you're out there, you're trying to do these conversions. What time of night is it? You had to remember what time you started the race, what time your watch says now, what time of day it might be. And it's like, it can get confusing when you are not in the best state of mind. What is one piece of advice as a must-do to train prep for Barkley? I mean, besides physically training and getting as much vert and kind of used to really steep grades, like training specific to the grade, which there are some crazy grades at this race, like probably 40%, 50% grade sometimes. I would say like learning how to use a map and compass would be a very great thing to do. Like you absolutely need to understand how to work a map and compass to do well at the Barkley. So that would be my biggest tip. You can take orienteering courses and classes. They even have orienteering races, which a lot of people that do Barkley Definitely participate. I know there's some world champion Rogaine, which is like 24-hour and beyond orienteering events. They are out here, like the world champions are out here at this race every year doing it. Let's see what else here. Oh yeah, see, I thought I saw this somewhere. Katie Wright ended up with a fancy white watch she posted on her Instagram story. So yeah, they kind of, it looks like maybe there weren't enough watches to get everyone the same kind, so they just grabbed whatever they could. Finish 2 loops as fast as possible and then sleep through the rest of the dark and rain. Good or bad strategy? Oof. I mean, I think the rain's just going to slow you down, so I think you just, I don't know if I would say push to finish faster in the rain. I would say manage the rain and try not to make navigational errors and mistakes. I would say focus on mental clarity and taking care of yourself and reducing the chance for navigational errors. Even if you need to slow down, take more time, check your compass bearings more often. That would be my strategy in the conditions that are happening right now. And also, which is a great point, it might not be possible to finish loop 2 before that rain ends. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any additional questions. I think we've covered most of the current updates. Of course, right now, coming up 13 hours and 20 minutes in is our Loop 1 cutoff. So that will be something to watch and see if see how many runners are still out there once that time expires. Let's see here. Even Dimitrov is the next runner to face the Bugler. Okay, so we've got another drop from the race here, as just reported on Twitter here by Keith Dunn. Another runner is tapped out. And no, I'm not running it this year, guys. Sorry. I withdrew about a week and a half ago. So I am on the sidelines this year, hoping to return in a future year. A 12-hour loop 2 puts the leaders in while it's dark. They could get 60 minutes of rest before burning daylight. So that's interesting. If you came in with about an hour before the sun came up, what would you do? Would you take extra time in camp? Well, you're actually not that far in, so if you're 20 hours into your race, I feel like most of the runners who are here are used to doing really long events, so I don't think they're going to need a nap after loop 2, and I certainly would not try and take one then. I would push on, and I mean, it's possible, like maybe if you would benefit from a 15-minute close your eyes, reset your brain, but most likely you can probably get a head start and be at the top of the first climb, because there's basically climbs right out of the gate in both directions. You could be hitting the top of your first climb at sunrise, which gives you like an entire full day to attack loop 3 and get as far onto loop 4 as you can before it gets dark again, if you want to push it and not sleep after 3. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting strategy. The training will not go to waste. it will still be there. And look, now I have basically 16 months to get ready for this event, depending on the date for next year. So that'll be great. Okay. Looks like we got a question from Nathan Woodcock. Can you explain the map orienteering without giving away race secret? I'm used to military orienteering where you're given an 8-digit grid. Is this map more trying to follow the provided route? Yes to the latter. Oh, this is funny. All right, Jason Kowalski. Is there still a discussion on the Barkley being acquired by a new race organization? I don't know if you're referring to our joke about myself and Gary Robbins acquiring the race. We put out a YouTube video a couple years ago based upon an article written on I Run Far on April Fool's Day, but it was a joke. Interesting. So Keith said that Ivan started loop 2 about 19 minutes ago, so he must have quickly returned. That's interesting. So we've had more than one runner head out and then quit after loop 2. So I haven't seen Keith talk about the weather conditions yet. He's mostly focusing on just the actual like times in and out. So we don't know exactly what the weather's like out there at this moment, but I'm sure at some point when things settle down a little bit, he'll probably talk a little bit more about that. Mitch McLaughlin says the AJW article had me fooled for 3 months until I randomly thought to go back and check the date. All right, thanks, Jason. I'm glad you're in on it. Surprisingly, there are some people that still believe it, which is kind of crazy. How do you sign up for this race? Well, it's an invitational. You have to apply and get selected. I will kind of leave it up to you to figure out the puzzle of how to apply for the event, but it's not publicly listed anywhere. Yeah, that's a good point that Jeff chimes in here. The problem I found with orienteering events is that you're not really taking a bearing as much as using a compass just to orient the map. It doesn't really teach you how to navigate with a map and compass. It's a fair point. I would say, like for the Barkley, the biggest thing that you're doing, like you do need to know how to orient a map and compass. Like it's an important skill, like as a basics. But for the most part, unless you're really lost, you're not pulling out your map and orienting it. You are pre-calculating some bearings and then following the bearings for the most part. Looks like we've got some more runners finishing loop 1. Leif Abrahamson has finished loop 1 in 12:34.21. And we'll see. At this point, it is questionable at some point whether these runners will choose to continue. Their prospects for even a fun run finish are dim. And so they have to weigh the factor of, well, I just did a 12-hour experience out there on this course. Do I want more? According to Frozen Head State Park website, it's currently 48 degrees and overcast clouds. Like, are they saying no rain? I gotta remember to switch this to Wartburg. Oh, there's rain in Wartburg, so if there's rain in Wartburg, there's gotta be rain at the park. So here we go. Wartburg, Frozen Head is right there between Wartburg and Petros. Petros is essentially where the prison is at. So let's hit play and see how this is playing out here. So it's around 8:30 there right now. Oof. I mean, it's raining. It's gonna rain. Jim Muir, is there a time cutoff for the fun run? Yes. 40 hours overall. First loop, 13:20, 26:40, and then 40. So it's even across the board. Here's a good question. RSG, what is your longest time to find a book that took you out mentally? I mean, my biggest blunder was on loop 4, that second year that I went out there in 2015. And I was so tired. I was heading, I think it was the third book in the counterclockwise direction. And I was going up an old, they consider it kind of an old roadbed. It's kind of a trail. There's something there. And there's like a river down to your right. And I heard these crashing waterfalls. And I thought I was supposed to be right along the river all the way up, but it felt like the river was way down there. So I thought I was in the wrong drainage. I went back and forth multiple times, rechecking my direction, got even more tired. And then I just got in this weird cycle of sleeping and waking up and trying to trudge forward and just wasted a bunch of time. Eventually made it up to the top of the ridge, couldn't find, I've had multiple issues with this book in various years where I've spent hours going around these huge chalk stones. They are these huge boulders all across this ridge line. They all look the same and they're all lined up, and you have to find the exact right one where the book is hidden. And for the life of me, I just couldn't find it. So yeah, I mean, literally hours and hours wandering around the same area within a quarter mile to a half mile and just not finding anything. It's craziest stories. Here's a question. I really liked the video you did where you basically self-crewed out of the back of a van. I don't think I would do this strategy again. I think I would want to crew. The minimalist approach, I think, is pretty challenging, and I think it's helpful to have a crew to help make sure that you don't forget the important things you need out on there. Hey, AGEM, I say. All right, we got a super chat donation. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, we got a question about Courtney's Loop 1 time here. So we got this great little results sheet. I kind of skipped over that. I apologize earlier. I got distracted. So yeah, after those first 4 guys, Courtney was next. So she came in 8:18 by herself. So she was, yeah, 11 minutes behind those folks, and looks like about 14 minutes ahead of Thomas. She's experienced, of course, and she's now made it around. She's done 3 loops at this point. So yeah, that's where Courtney's at right now. Jasmine Paris from England, 9:23, is currently your second female. Alyssa Godesky and Johanna Bigdell are running together, along with Jody. Jody's super experienced, so that is really awesome. They are all linked up. And it looks like Jasmine is kind of near Paul Giblin. So, yeah, maybe she can link up with him and work together on the next loop on that one. And Guillaume is not far behind them as well. So even a 15-minute time gap can be made up pretty quickly on this course for one reason or another. David Cooper, any tips for 2 hapless runners about to embark on their first trail run? I mean, I don't know what sort of trail run you're heading out on, but I would say, what are my tips? I would say make sure you know where you're going. So either have a map or the route in your phone so you can navigate the trail system and kind of learn your way around. Make sure you have food and water with you. Most of all, just have fun. Explore. Don't worry about your pace. It doesn't really matter. Walk, run, whatever you want to do. That's it. Oh, yeah, here's a good one. Lame Lake Outdoors got a question about the rules. Can you blaze a tree or leave marking tape to help find books on subsequent loops? What do you think? Absolutely not. And this, unfortunately, I have heard stories of this happening. I've even seen reflective markers that I've helped remove on the course. So there's been flagging tape. There's been other things. Don't do it. Don't cheat. Keep that stuff at home. We got a question, what time did the Barkley start this year? And lots of great answers in here. And 7:54 a.m. How disorienting is the fog when it rolls in? Seems like it would be mess with your confidence because you'd be second guessing everything. It is hard to describe how terrible the fog is and how disorienting it is. Maybe my best example was last year when I was with Courtney and Maggie and Liz, and we were coming off of a ridge, and this is a pretty defined ridge where it's like kind of like this. Imagine a ridge all the way down, and you're just on the top of that ridge, and all you have to do is stay on that ridge and follow a simple compass bearing. And we hit a point where we started, instead of going down the slope, we were going down off to the left side of the entire mountain. And I guess like when the trail hits a steepness where like the dropping slopes on the side equal the pitch going down, you feel like all of it is heading in the correct direction, and you can just get a little bit off the side of that ridge. And it's hard. In the fog, it's hard to tell where the ridge ends and begins and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Very, very challenging. All right, couple great things here. Jasmine turned right around. Oh, that's right. She turned immediately around and left right on loop 2. Tom, do you know when they turn around, does that mean they're reversing loop 2, or are they doing it in the same direction? We do have a tip that Howie Stern posted some photos, so we are going to check those out right now. Nice. So here's John Kelly. It says, everyone seems to be enjoying their Barkley experience on loops 1. As Laz said, navigation is pretty intuitive this year. When on top, you go down. When at the bottom, you go up. Okay. Fortunately, for further fun, the night calls for heavy rains on loop 2, as we know. You can see the infamous briar scratches all across John's legs. And it looks like this rope here, I think he's probably doing a switch at the gate. That's something I've done before. They've have a little zone now where you can do a quick turnaround where you don't need to go all the way back to your campsite and just make a quick turn of things. Here's Carl Saab with his page count happening there. For those of you not super familiar, you have to tear pages out of books to prove that you made it around the whole loop. Here's a great shot of Courtney trying to keep cool up there at the fire tower area. Jasmine Paris. That is a solid pack too. I mean, the runners that are used to these longer races, Jasmine Paris winning the spine race, you've got Carl doing all of the speed records. They are used to carrying packs and equipment and being out there self-sufficient for a long time. So I think that really plays to a strength out here at this race. And of course, you got Harvey Lewis, who is transitioning from his backyard win this last fall. It's yet to be seen how well that will translate to the Barkley. Here's Guillaume Calmette with some nice torn up legs there. And this is one of our other women runners. Could this be Alyssa Godeski possibly? And here's Tomo. Someone powdering up their feet. So someone says here only 38 participants this year. I don't know if that's confirmed. I would imagine there would be 40, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure. How are the Briars this time of year? Saw a photo of the legs of Thomas under the blood. Yeah, typically they cut down the Briars, but it seemed like they're longer than normal, so it's possible that they didn't get to that yet since the race is a bit earlier than normal. Are they worse on the way up or down? I don't know that it matters really. On the way down, when they cut them, they can get tangled up in your leggings or your shorts or whatever. So I think up might be a little bit better because you can be a little bit more deliberate about your steps. That might have been Anna Carlson in the photo. Thank you. For a U.S. citizen, what's the normal progression to begin ultra running all the way to UTMB in Europe? Oh man, normal progression. Maybe you've done some road races, half marathon, marathon, and then you step up and try a 50K or a 50 miler, local to you. If you want to do UTMB in the past, you've had to run a certain number of qualifying races and collect points. Now they have the new running stone system, so that'll be a little bit more challenging potentially, but you'll have to run one of the UTMB races. So those races will probably get more popular and more people will be trying to run those races in the future. What are my predictions for this year? I'm not going to make any at this point, but I would say it's really tough to say. I think I would hope for a finish this year. I think that with that blazing fast first lap, I think there are a lot of excellent runners that have a really good shot at it. Even with the rains tonight, you have built up a buffer, so you have time. You have a little bit of time to burn. You could burn a few hours getting lost or having some struggles or slowing down due to the mud. And because the next day and a half after this look relatively good, I think that they're in pretty good shape overall. And we got another great line here from Davy Crockett. James Earl Ray in 1977 was the first to call Barkley out there. He said, "I mostly thought about food. That's the problem when you get out there." Got some chills from that. Who am I excited to see run it this year? Definitely Courtney. Definitely John. Guillaume, excited to see him back. I don't know a ton about some of these other runners here, but I certainly would love to learn more, like Albert Casa from Spain, Michael Dubova. Probably at some point, maybe I'll do a deep dive in the next stream about that a little bit more. Uh-oh, who would make it further at Barkley, Rob or myself? Oh, man. Well, if we consider the performances at ATY Last Person Standing, and if Barkley was tomorrow, I'd probably have to give the nod to Rob. Sorry, Matt. But I think your altitude, your new altitude training could become a major factor and could be a big deal for you. Sounds like Dubova won the Fall Classic. So that is, for those of you out there that are looking to gain entry, the Barkley Fall Classic, the winner gets an automatic invite into this race. And it looks like he's doing quite well so far. All right, we got some people, yeah, I guess just tuning in, so we should probably do a quick update. We are almost 13 hours into the race this year. We've had a handful of people get tapped out. Right here, we have up on the screen here the split times from the first lap that have been kind of crowdsourced by the community to in this nice spreadsheet report. But you've got John Kelly and Carl Saab out front. Courtney DeWalter is our first woman. I think probably likely, Davey can correct me if I'm wrong, probably the best, fastest women's first loop ever, and certainly within range of a 5-loop finish at this point in time. I mean, there's a handful of runners. There have been runners that have, like all the runners under 9 hours right now, I would say, are in the mix for a 5-loop finish at this point in time. Of course, we're expecting, it's raining right now, it's going to rain all night until sunrise. That is going to throw a wrench in things. Depending on how bad the fog is and the navigational challenges of where you are on course when that fog hits, it could spell disaster for you. And that'll be something to keep an eye on through the night is we could see some surprises. You could see someone who you thought was strong, who was up there finishing under 9 hours this first lap, and all of a sudden they come in dropping from the race. It happens every year. That's the update. Photo of the feet made me wonder powder versus tape. I guess I prefer tape over powder, but I haven't really used powder much, so yeah. All right, let's check Keith Dunn Twitter. As we get close to that 13-hour barrier, we are, of course, running out of, and of course, the first thing here is a Barkley cat. Nice. We got a little bit of a Loop 2 stat here from Nick Chuck. The fastest second loop amongst finishers was Jared Campbell in 2014. Loop time of 9:28. The slowest second loop was Travis Wildeboer in 2013. Loop time of 11:53. Fun fact, Travis's fifth loop was faster than his second. And if you think about it, we could see that scenario here, Loop 2 versus Loop 5. If we do see a 5-loop finisher this year, Loop 5 is going to be basically entirely in the daylight. It's going to be the best weather of the entire weekend. They're looking for like a highs in the 60s, no rain. And this Loop 2 is going to be in the dark, cold night with rain and more and all the goodness that the Barkley throws at you. So an update here, Katie Wright finished Loop 1 officially 12:47, and we also have Leif Abrahamson 12:49. And it appears, Leif Abrahamson began Loop 2. I thought we read him before. It looks like a follower of Keith Dunn just learned who Amelia Boone is, which is pretty interesting. Didn't see that coming. Loop 5 is a day loop. I know a bunch were doing great after Loop 1. Any updates on how Loop 2 is going? Short answer, no. And we're probably not going to get any updates. There is a chance that people will hike up to the fire tower, which is the one spot that spectators can be at. They cannot provide any sort of assistance, even information or moral support, essentially. No sort of you're 15 minutes ahead of blah, blah, blah. You can't do that. But you can go up to the fire tower. It's just a question of, will someone go up there in this weather? Will they be there long? Will they report back? We don't know. I would imagine that someone will be up there because the crew of Barkley is oftentimes just as crazy as the runners of Barkley and are former or future participants themselves. Alan Murphy shouting out Jasmine Paris, of course. She's right in the mix as well. 12 hours off the course record and the spine record, which was held by Ian Keith. Harvey's got all the pieces here. Winning bigs means he's dealt with sleep issues. Winning Badwater means he can handle extremes. And he's clocked a fast 100 recently. So true. And he's been training like a madman on the vert stuff, which is really good. Oh, here we go. See, P Knight just correcting me. Bev Abs dropping a 744 loop 1 back in 2012. And she's gone on to do a fun run before as well. What's your take on Killian trying out Barkley? I say, let's do it. It would be awesome to see him give it a shot. Be super curious to see how he would do. Jillian's asking, I live only 2 hours from there. Shall I drive? I would say no. The race doesn't really welcome spectators. So I would say I would recommend not, and definitely not trying to interact with the event at all. It's a very small area where it takes place, and I know that Laz is discouraging spectators, so I will project and forward that information on to the outside world. I'd imagine staying in camp with hot cocoa is going to be real appealing with the weather tonight, so the crew might just wait and see when people come back in. Rob asks, what's my favorite Barkley memory of all time? Oof. I mean, anytime I'm running really fast out on the race course is really great. So, I mean, I've absolutely bombed some sections, like run so strong, and it's so much fun. Anytime you nail a book, too, if it's a new book, that has got to be the greatest feeling in the world, where you are just bombing down through the woods, jumping over logs, feeling like a wild animal or just a kid playing in the woods, having the time of his life, and you come upon like some hole in a rock root ball tree thing, and you just come right to a book. It's probably the greatest feeling. Have I ever toured the town? Yeah, I mean, I've spent quite a bit of time in this area. I've been to the new distillery at the prison. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, there's a ton to tour. I would prefer to spend my time in the park, but yeah, fair bit of time. We got a shout out to whoever's running John Kelly's Twitter, which I think is my cue to go check it out. Oh, it's like spelled differently. All right, let's see what we got going on here. All right, so we've got a These Briars Tickle tweet an hour ago. We got This Course is Easy from John Kelly. Also, just went off course a bit to relieve myself, and half a dozen people followed me, just like a group of us did to Alan Abs in my first Barkley in 2015. And we've also got one here. It's great to be home. For the next couple days, I think I'll take a stroll through the woods. Life is as peaceful as a baby's sigh. That's great. There's a look at our radar right there. Definitely some stuff coming in. Oh, that's interesting. See, there's all these little hidden things. So we had this comment here from Mike. First off, thank you. Do I understand from Keith's comment on Courtney that there are 14 books per loop this year? I have to go reread that one. And still going. Okay. Courtney Dauwalter finished loop 1 in 8:18:10. A bit of scare as Laz counted 13 pages twice. One had dropped to the ground next to the gate. Ah, interesting. So yeah, that would infer that there are 14 books this year. And do I take any inspiration from Barkley when I put on a race? Not really. We haven't put on a Barkley style race. So no, not exactly. Keith says no rain yet? Whoa, that is interesting. Recently? It's supposed to be raining right now, but it's not. Frozen Head weather is completely unpredictable. I will note that that is in camp. Which doesn't guarantee that that is actually what's happening on course. We did look at this video from John Kelly, Descending Rat Jaw. Go check that out over on his Instagram page. Speaking of nailing a book, how much map reading skills do you need? Is it like orienteering? It's not exactly like true orienteering races, but I would say an understanding of maps is definitely highly important for this event. Old Treading History has a nice one here. During the first Barkley, Laz ran with Gary Buffington and hit a huge pile of deadfall. I think they were wondering, the long and short of it, how they were going to get past it, like thinking this is impossible. Laz asked Gary for his pack and threw it over the pile and said, well, now we have to go get it. It's great. So, yeah, we're now just 14 minutes from the cutoff for loop 1 right here. Wow, quick turnaround from Katie Wright. Yes, that is some motivation. Turns right back around, heads right back out, 12:57:52. I mean, you don't have much time to waste. You know, if you want to get back out there, I mean, as a first-time runner, you want to kind of try and prove yourself as much as you can, getting as far as you can so you can not only get an invite back, but also get as much experience on the course. Especially, we still don't know yet if they've reversed directions for Loop 2, but if you have a chance to do a reverse loop, it is extremely, extremely important to be doing that and get some experience on there. And as they're pointing out here in the comments, it looks like if they can get through tonight, the weather should be good for the rest of the race. And that is kind of what it's looking like. And as we see from Keith, the rain doesn't hit everywhere in the same way. It can be spotty. It can be heavy in some sections and not in others. Very weird weather out there sometimes. And apparently we have a new record for Loop 2 starters. So that tells you something about maybe this year's course, but also maybe just the good conditions on Loop 1. It'll be fun to see how that plays out. But I think the more the better. It'll keep it entertaining longer and also higher chance of getting more fun runs and more 5-loop finishers here. Here we go. The second loop is clockwise as per Keith. All right. So far, 30 runners have begun loop 2. Can you believe that? A Barkley Marathons record. That is a bit shocking, to be honest. That is amazing. And also Howie is saying Shout out to Billy Simpson. They are going in the same direction on loop 2. And here's a question. Oh, wait. Woods in Kingston and it's pouring. So, yeah, the weather could just be getting going out there for sure. Does Laz intentionally stage the race in shoulder season for the random weather? Would things be more boring, predictable during the summer? I think there's probably a various numbers of factors. I don't know if you could hold the race in the summer with all of the off trail going through all that poison ivy, poison oak, and just the dense like vegetation that would grow up. But I could be wrong. I don't know. So this is going to be fun to see how this plays out. I feel like it's been relatively quiet in terms of drops, but I think there's going to be some stories out there as the night unfolds. And yeah, what are your guys' predictions? How many do you think are going to make it in under the cutoff for loop 2 and start loop 3? So this is the crowdsourced results sheet that we've been looking at. And you can see 30 people. There's still some unknowns that we're not sure about who's out there, but this is as far as we can tell from Keith's tweets who is there. And we're not marking DNFs on this sheet, but I would probably recommend that maybe Taka Does Stuff could do that, because I know Ed Furtaw has withdrawn, so I would mark him as a DNF. Enrico Frigeri is a DNF. I would mark him. And also Ivan, I believe, turned around and came back in after he headed out on loop 2. So Brian here in the summertime says, Poison Ivy, Yellow Jackets, Ticks, Copperheads would make for a bad summer race. That sums it up right there. So we're thinking 11, make it to 3. 10 or under. The rain and night is tough. Grace says 14 will make it to 2. 6 will make it through 3. And a prediction from Rob Ricardo, 2 finishers. Will you venture, sir, on which 2 those might be, or at least 1? Do you have 1 that you would guarantee is going to get it done this year? Wait for that. There's people speculating about the sacrificial virgin. I don't know exactly. There was some speculation earlier about the person that got bib number 1. I forget who it was. And we got some other people chiming in. Everyone's optimistic right now here after these fast starts that there is going to be 2 finishers at least. 2 will complete this year, and 1 will be Courtney, they're saying. That is from Michael Franks. We are seeing first female finisher here from Tyler. And here we go. Rob, who started this conversation off, John Kelly and Courtney is his vote. You don't think Carl Saab's going to get it done? I've got to put I would probably put a little bit of money on Carl Saab getting it done. I think he's got a real good shot this year. But absolutely true from Jessica, there are no guarantees in the Barkley, as we've seen, even up until the final 6 seconds. Smart money is on John and Carl, but I'd love to see Courtney pull it off for the ladies also. The sheet that I'm looking at, is that something you can see? So if you look at the bottom here, Taka Does Stuff on Twitter. I'll pull it up. Taka Does Stuff on Twitter right here. If you right there is the Google spreadsheet. Check it out. You can see right there. And we'll go back to Keith. Keith done. Jillian says she'll cry endless amounts of tears if Courtney finishes. All right. I will probably end this stream after our 13:20 cutoff, and kind of that seems like a good bookend for this one since I am really hungry. Almost as hungry as the runners probably. So we got a lot of other predictions here about Harvey, John, and Courtney. Carl will start 5th loop, but he will time out, we're saying. Carl Saab and Jasmine Paris. I know we got a huge international contingency this year, which is really cool. How do we think David Goggins would do at the Barkley? Anyone? Don't count out Dubova. Absolutely. So Michael Dubova was the winner, apparently, of the Barkley Fall Classic this last year. And so he clearly knows the park. He earned his way and earned his right to be here with all these folks. And he is not wasting the opportunity. He's right up there with all of them, which is awesome. As far as solo navigational risks, remember that Courtney doesn't follow the compass. The compass follows Courtney. She has the navigation under control. David Goggins, sorry, would lap Barkley 10 loops carrying a boat. I think Goggins would do well. He had orienteering training in the military, and he can run far. I think Goggins could get 1 loop for sure. Fun Run would be pushing it. Goggins got lost at Moab with a GPS tracker in his hand. Okay. It's a mixed bag. Mixed bag. Does everyone follow the same books in the same order so you can potentially follow each other? Are there extra decoy books? Nope. Yeah, everyone's on the same course, and you have to do it in the same order. Ryan says you'd have to drag Goggins off the mountain. Do we have a list of lap 1 finishers? We do. We have this crowdsourced spreadsheet right here. So I'll just leave this up on the screen for now. That should have most of them right there. How much time would a typical med pack racer finish Barkley Loop? What pace? It's tough to say on pace, but you can see, I mean, you might want to look up some of the credentials of some of these other athletes that are in the field and see where that might stack up to, I guess, like a mid-pack racer. There's certainly runners of all strengths and varieties here, so that would be my recommendation to kind of gauge. We are just a minute away from this cutoff, so we'll see if we get any last. Well, we're going to get, I'm sure, an update from Keith after the 13:20 mark, whether something interesting is happening or not. And he might provide us with a list of those runners that are still out there over cutoff. And they say here, Goggins doesn't wear a watch. He decides what time it is. It would take me 48 hours to complete one loop. And it's the final countdown. And this is an estimation, so the time might have already passed, but I think I got it pretty close to about within a minute of the start time. I mean, so let's say the race is longer than 20 miles per loop. Let's say it's 120 miles total. You have 60 hours, so 2 miles per hour could get you a finish at this race. So think about that. Can you do 2 miles per hour on any sort of terrain? Sounds pretty easy. That's including up and down. So time has expired. Runners are coming in from the wrong direction. Whoa, okay. We have runners dropping. Leif Abrahamson back in. Hinky Shokar back in, both facing the bugler, getting tapped out here. That's the thing. You never know when someone's gonna call it, come back in. Such a confusing race. It is quite confusing by design. Question, will he be back tomorrow? I'm not entirely sure. I hope to do some more updates. I'm not sure when I will do them, but yeah, maybe. I don't know if I'll stay up. I might stay up tonight and see if I can be up for the first runners to come in on loop 2. I think that would be pretty fun, pretty interesting. If not, I will try and check in at least 1 or 2 times tomorrow with an update, maybe in the morning, see how the night went, see how many people are left in. We got Eric Swanson predicting tonight is going to take a lot of souls out there. So we'll see if we can get any final updates from Keith, but I would imagine if he's tweeting about runners coming in from the wrong direction, that no one else made it under the cutoff for loop 1, and that's going to be our final 30-person list. We got Major Woody saying it is Carl's year. And the first year, talk about confusing, 3 runners started late, went up the wrong direction. They were the lucky ones, out early. What does bugler mean? So they play taps. They tap you out. So it's song. They play it, and then you're done. 2 miles per hour sounds easy, right? So here is, once again, is your list. The names on here that haven't come in: Andrea Larson, Arturo Volanskis, Alexander Ricard, David Hughes, Isabel Ross, Ed Furtaw dropped, Richard Sparks, Marina Colossa. So those folks, unfortunately, at this point, will be tapped out when they arrive, if they arrive. And there are potentially more names. We just don't know who else is out there running right now that will probably not make it. But look at that field. We got a lot of folks out there heading out into the night. Rob is asking me if I'll have a new A race this year, or is the focus purely on Barkley? I'll be honest, For me, the focus is purely on Barkley. I will hopefully do some races this year, but they will just be in support of Barkley next year. So I think I'm going to call it for now and hopefully see you guys later. Just as a quick note, John Kelly and Carl Saab have been on Loop 2 for, I think, 5 hours now, which means they are probably pretty far around that loop at this point in time. I think it was 540 to the fire tower on Loop 1. So there could be some more updates. Stay tuned. Follow Keith Dunn on Twitter. And other than that, I plan to go live again before this event is over, maybe a few more times. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Turn your notifications on. I think that should let you know. But otherwise, hopefully we'll catch you again. Thank you all for hanging out, tuning in again. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much.